Despite what the mainstream media has been projecting, we know specifically that there are no positive indicators for the U.S. economy. So today we will discuss how America has gone over the cliff. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. We have so much to cover today. I have a few charts. I have some intel that would show you exactly why this is the case. Let's begin with this article, and the information is out of the BLS, and we are seeing 1 in 5 families in the U.S. no one works. That's right. 1 in 5 families. We're looking at 20% of American families using the 2014 numbers. Nobody in that family actually works. This is a startling statistic to think about because it is such a high percentage. In 2014, there were 80 million families in the United States, and 16 million of those families, no one had a job. You can read how they break it down right here. This article is out of CNS News. But what we need to understand is that the economic situation is getting worse. I need to move on quickly here to some connected information. This is out of CNBC. Home prices are rising and home ownership is falling. How can this be? The home ownership rate in the first quarter of the year fell to 64%, the lowest since 1990 according to the U.S. Census. Think about this. Think about what has happened. The price of real estate dropped considerably in most areas around the United States. There were some areas, perhaps in Manhattan, for example, where the prices did not come down or much at all. And what we're looking at right here is a situation where they became more affordable, yet they are at the lowest level since 1990 in terms of home ownership rate. What does this tell us about the economy? That obviously it's weakened. Look at what happened with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, whereby the government had to take them over because so many people were invested in the lowest quality mortgages. That's what has occurred, where you have the government acting as a support to the entire economy, to all the citizens, and they have been supporting this. If it wasn't for them, there would be a much different situation, even within the mainstream media lies. Look at this. We're looking at the CPI, and they're suggesting that the Federal Reserve is going to have this meeting. Janet Yellen's going to come out and say a few words, and of course, the stock market is ready and waiting for that to occur. The stock market doesn't rise on fundamentals. It doesn't sink on fundamentals. It only goes by what the Federal Reserve has to say. Even the ECB, for example, doesn't really have too much push and pull. It is all about the Federal Reserve. They're consistently watching, and every time they have a meeting, any little word in which they say or twist will be able to move markets considerably. And this individual said this, that he's worried about this 0.2% inflation. I'm afraid for this number tomorrow. It might be on the doves camp. It might be 0.1. Dun, dun, dun. Can you believe this? Down 0.1. Wow, what a significance here. We should all sell everything we have. Or perhaps this is a buying opportunity. That 0.1% is such a huge difference. And you've heard it all before. This is what they play on. We're talking about 0.1% of a completely fictional number. This number doesn't even include food and energy prices. How are you ever going to get an accurate description of inflation without that? This is a joke. Let's move on right here to Procter & Gamble, cutting another 3,000 to 6,000 office jobs worldwide in the next 2 years, according to the senior execs. What are we seeing is that companies have been laying off. The financial crisis, according to the mainstream media, according to the government, is over a long time ago. All they needed to do was inject tens of trillions of dollars into the economy, and you'll bring it back to life. But of course, that never happened. Look at Procter & Gamble laying people off. Let's move on into what I wrote about in my book. The uncertainty during 2011 has brought on a wave of firings that washed away more than 200,000 jobs in the global financial services industry. talked about this in my book specifically because I knew this wouldn't be the only time this ever happens. Every time they have a little bit of trouble, they're going to be laying people off on a mass scale. This is what we're seeing now today, still continuing since the financial crisis. It never ended. I'll show you more statistics to prove that in a moment. But look at this here. McDonald's, I'm sure you heard about this one. McDonald's is closing hundreds of stores this year. They've already closed 350 stores, and they say that they're going to be about 700 stores that they need to close. What we're looking at is a store that generally is seen to be one that people go when the times are tough, especially. They're supposed to be doing even better during tough times, but that's not the way it works. And in this case here, of course, there are different situations. This is not just poor performance by McDonald's or just a poor economy. There are many factors here, but this is just one indicator that we can look at to describe the entire overall global picture. We'll move on to these two charts. This first one is the retail sales year over year. Guess what? Hasn't been at this level since the financial crisis. I don't understand how many different indicators I have to show that we are now back to Lehman crisis era, even worse in certain cases, and we're looking at this being a very big problem when it's not one, not two, not 10, but the hundreds of different indicators showing this type of information. And we move on to the US GDP fixed investment quarter over quarter, again back into the financial crisis era. Sure, this is just 1 month in a row, but if you see, in fact, the previous 3 quarters were here showing you a decline consistently. This is what's happening. The statistics are getting worse. The indicators are getting worse. It's not getting any better. This is just one of many. We have bubbles forming all across the world, whether it's real estate, whether it's commodities, the tech boom, biotech stocks. We've had it all before. We have seen this taking place. And student debt is, in fact, one of the biggest bubbles out there. They're looking at a fallout from a record $1.2 trillion in U.S. student loans that's spreading to everything from the housing market and consumer spending to taxpayers. Only 37% are current and reducing their balances according to the Fed. Can you believe this? That only 37%, basically 1/3 of the people, are actually paying it back. This is what they believe, is that they're saying, look, I'm not going to pay back my student debts. I'd rather just let it sit there and rot because I'll just worry about that later, or I don't have enough money, or I'm not getting a job, I'm unemployed. How am I supposed to pay this back? I'd rather use that for my daily living expenses. This is becoming a very big problem. They have all sorts of different schemes, whether it's the student loans, whether it is all of the different programs that they've set up as a safety net in order to be there to protect the public, and it does add up. You may realize that, look, there's more to this than just the students themselves. This is a government that has found itself in an incredible amount of debt, and it cannot pay it back. It has undoubtedly driven over the cliff. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate that very much. I have so much more information to get into in future videos. I am always listening to your comments, to your emails. If you want to email me, you can do so at david@themoneygps.com. I always reply to all of my emails. As of today, I have replied back to basically every single person who has emailed me. If you didn't receive a reply from me, perhaps it got missed in the junk mail or something, you can always do so again. Just copy and paste it if you have to, but I do reply to all my emails, and I look forward to talking to you on there. I just want to mention again quickly that I have to shut down the Money GPS Insiders. Although it was fantastic, I got so much good feedback, it is just too expensive to maintain. Just wanted to once again mention that because not everyone stays to the end of the video, I'm sure. So Last but not least, if you found this video informative, I know that you will find my book even more informative. And if you want to look through it, you can actually do that at Amazon. They have a look inside feature where you can flip through the book and see if you like it for yourself. Take care.